Hi, everybody, and welcome to this really exciting edition of Thinking Out Loud. Thinking Out Loud is sponsored by Today's Visions Indie Echo Village, and you can find that at todaysvisions.com. And with me today, as my wing lady, is Catherine Wilfong. Rain has some family issues that she had to attend to, so she couldn't be here today, but she'll be with us in spirit. And also with us is Mark Lobatto. I knew I would do that. I pronounced it wrong.
Lobatto. It's tricky when it's a non-European accent, I think.
Lobatto. Mark is a screenwriter and film producer. So we're going to talk to him about his newest film coming up, Blue Barcelona.
Borsalino.
Boy, you're just going to like really, bring out all my bad enunciation.
Now, Borsalino is a hat, right? It's a
correct. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So
I did not know that. Is it Italian?
I think it must be either mixed Italian and American, but it's something. It's sort of a connotation to do with the noir, like we were talking about previously. And the hat itself is anyway. It's a big part of the actual story itself. It's like an embodiment of the past in a way. So it's quite interesting.
That does sound interesting. So when I was out researching about noir, I found some people who said that noir was a genre. Other people said, nah, it's more like a mood. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because noir has sort of been going for decades, and it's kind of it's just as popular now as it ever was in a way, but it's used in more specific ways rather than just being entrenched in a time and place. Now it's like a sentiment. Noir is like something can go wrong to a person and their life is unraveling, and it's kind of like a dark twist on the everyday life is how I think of noir.
So kind of the despair that we all kind of feel sometimes.
I think definitely it's like feeling of dread and this kind of downward spiral that a life can turn from one moment. That's kind of a starting point of a noir quite often.
Desperation.
For sure.
Yeah. So but it doesn't look like you're desperate for money anymore with your Kickstarter campaign.
We've had a good beginning. We're definitely still trying to surge well on with it. Because although you put down your goal as a certain amount, you'd ideally like to push on and go for the amount that you would love to have to make the film or project exactly how you would like to. So we can make the film with what we're hopefully about to reach, but with a little chunk more, we can make it with all the bells and whistles, and it would be the ultimate version, hopefully, of the film we're trying to make, which is exciting if we can get there.
That is exciting. So, tell us a little bit more about the Kickstarter campaign and how you got into it.
Yeah, well, for me, it made sense for this project because it was a tricky one in the sense that I wanted to make a short film that was still ambitious, and it's very difficult to get financial investment for short films because you don't make money back really. So for me it was a passion project, but to convince other people it's always difficult. So it was kind of a no-brainer that crowdfunding would be part of it. We didn't realize that maybe it could be the entire amount of the budget at the time, but then I started putting a lot of time into researching it and talking with some people who've had successful campaigns, and it became apparent that it could be a reality to raise it entirely on the crowdfunding, which hopefully we will do, which is fantastic.
How long do you anticipate the film being? Because I know Silent Treatment was, 9 minutes?
Yeah, it was
almost 10 minutes.
So this is the script itself is 18 pages. It's normally about a page a minute, but I think this is a bit shorter. It's probably going to be about 16, 17 minutes long. Much meatier narrative this time around, and there's a lot going on, and we're working in 2 different time periods. There's a lot of interesting locations. Some are sort of thick in atmosphere, and we've got an abandoned 1960s fun fair, a dusty old pawnbroker's shop, filled with possessions and sort of old memories and items like that. So, and also we're working in a hospital as well, and these are sort of quite extreme locations. So for a short film, it's ambitious, but thankfully I'm working with people who sort of know where to look sometimes, and we've done a lot of research with all the departments to try and find ways to do it in the most economical way possible, I guess, to make the most of the scene on the page without completely spending money unnecessarily, and just serving the story.
So have you already found your hospital location?
We have, yeah. No, we've. What we try to do with this campaign as well, which I think has hopefully put us in good stead, and why it's maybe done a little bit better with the momentum start at the beginning, is that we try to get everything as ready as we possibly could leading up to this point, so that when the campaign finishes and the money hopefully finally comes our way to use, that we won't then have another a month or two pre-production. We'll have everything ready to go. So we've sourced our locations. We're mostly entirely crewed up, some great people on board for the crew. Our artwork and sort of production design has come together, and we're just now having dialogue with agents for casts, and hopefully during the campaign we're going to have announcements with the casts that are going to be attached. But yeah, that was the idea, was to kind of be as ready as we can, so that then when people are very kindly thinking about putting some money in, even if it's a small amount, then the rewards they're getting back, they can trust us as a production, and they know the rewards are going to be hopefully something really memorable and good, and so they're getting something out of it and knowing that it's going to be a sort of hopefully a high-end production, really. That's
really exciting, and yeah, I admire your forethought and the fact that you have put so much into it. So speaking of his Kickstarter campaign, I think he's $260 some away now.
We are something. The last time I checked, and I've been sort of in neurosis checking every few seconds. I think, yeah, the last time I checked, we were about 250 off the initial 10,000 target. Which is fantastic. I mean, yeah, we are not even 4 days into it, so it's a beautiful thing. It's happy days at the moment.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone in the audience read the announcement, but A&G Synergy, who is the sponsoring company for today's Visions, has agreed to donate $1 for every viewer that we have live. So fantastic. Come on.
Absolutely.
Do we have any audience?
Well, I was just looking for that, so hopefully that will come up and into my stream.
Oh, you haven't? Yes, I've got quite a few over here already. Tammy Cook says that she loves your accent, Mark. So do I.
Right.
Yay. Yeah, you've got the comment tracker going, so mine's not going as well as yours. So.
Oh, well then you get to take over the interview, and I'll run the comment tracker.
All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. If you want to share that comment, share the. Do that with me. I'll put it back in my stream. But I do have a question. How long is the book that you're basing the short off of?
Oh, it's not based on a book.
Oh, I thought you wrote a book. That's why I was like, how do you make a short based on a book? And whoa, most authors cannot even possibly.
That would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Yeah, no,
exactly.
No, this was a script that I wrote specifically to film as a film.
Oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah, that was just blowing my mind. And most authors would go, no, you cannot cut this out. You can't cut that out. You can't cut this out. So, gotcha.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to get a sizable book down to 15 pages or something would be a tricky one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Now I understand a little bit better. Like, so you specifically wrote it for short.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So I was reading that Chris, you've got a assistant producer named, or your primary producer is named
he's Christopher Smith. Yeah, Chris Smith. Yeah, I've worked with Chris before. And we've stayed in touch since we worked together, and he's been very supportive with me in my work, and he's trying to, I guess, in a way, mentor me towards my first feature film, my first feature-length movie, which is fantastic. So to have him around and sort of bounce ideas, and just him to be there in general support has been really, really interesting, and just a really good learning curve.
Yeah, which kind of brings another question. What's the difference in the funds needed for the short, which you said if you get the 10,000 you can produce, and if you can raise even more, then you get to add the bells and whistles to producing a full length?
The annoying answer is it's entirely different with every production. I mean, as you know, with a feature-length film, between 90 and maybe 100, well, now it's becoming between 90 and maybe over 2 hours. Some films are very indulgent, but it's all down to production value. If you're paying for proper professional actors, all this kind of thing. I mean, there's so many factors that tie into cost. So yeah, but feature films are much more expensive. So although the strange thing is, to get a short film made is difficult financially unless you're funding it yourself. Whereas a feature film, if the script is good enough, in a way you can more easily get investors involved, purely because they will be able to get money back, and if you get a distribution deal, people will see it. Therefore, there's tie-ins to make sure they will be financially sorted at the end.
But I noticed that your silent treatment is still in distribution. So
it is, yeah. So what that means, so with a short film, unlike proper size films that end up in the cinema, short films have a slightly different life. So you'd make them, you might do a private screening immediately after making it, and then it goes around the festival circuit, normally for about a year, sometimes a year and a half if you just missed the dates. And then after that, if you're lucky, you can get a bit of distribution through different platforms. So in the case with silent treatment, Tribeca asked for it to be shown on United Airlines flights. So because there's different channels, and there's one channel within the airlines which is now shorts only tied into Tribeca, which is great. And you can also, there's some US TV channels that just deal with short films, so you can show them there. And there's lots of little different avenues, but it's difficult to. It's not the easiest thing to do, is actually to get a short film distributed. So we were really chuffed with that.
That's interesting. We do have a question from the audience.
Yay.
I'm trying to bring it up, and it's not wanting to. Wow. Renee asked, is your script based on factual event that happened in New Orleans? Renee Storm.
No, not exactly. I mean, I'd say, well, the starting point for this film was that I never met either of my grandfathers. So immediately I wanted to explore an older gentleman as sort of the main character. But then off the back of that, I mean, there was nothing really drawn from my own life. It's quite, it's a bit of a dark story, but it's also, the starting point for me was this idea that two people, a man and a woman, can have their lives affected dramatically, and then years later they have to work together in order to find out actually what happened. So there's a gentleman who used to be a private detective, decades ago, and his first and only case, his client was assaulted and left in a coma. And it's only now that when we join the film that she's finally woken up, and it's now up to him to work with her to find out what happened all those years ago, so that he can try and finally move on with his life. So that's really the crux of the story.
That sounds fascinating. And definitely noir.
Yes, no, definitely, yeah. There's definitely noir elements throughout.
So I was looking at the top 10 list of noir films, and everybody lists, I mean, there was not one list that was even remotely close to being similar. What is your top? What would you say is your top noir film?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I mean, I mentioned Blade Runner before. I know it's a neo-noir, but I'm a big fan of Blade Runner, and Chinatown is fantastic. I mean, lots of people will go to sort of Maltese Falcons and things like that, but I always find it difficult to say favorite for any kind of type of film, just because, as probably you guys do, I mean, I watch a huge amount of films through my life, and it's kind of, everyone has its own merit for its own reasons. So
I can totally see that.
So, what what else would you like to write if you weren't writing this? Because who wants to really have you really boxed in and categorized? Because it seems like it might be boxing you in. And I don't believe you're a boxed in person. So what else would you want to do if you weren't doing this?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I'm constantly writing, and I have other projects sort of from the past that I'm setting aside, and ones that I hope to make in the future as well. So they're all very different from each other. So Silent Treatment, as we were saying, is kind of like a romantic meeting between two people that they didn't know was going to happen.
It's still a little dark.
A little dark, admittedly. And this one is, as we know, what I've just discussed. And then, so I have other film ideas which, admittedly, do have dark elements in them. But are entirely different in terms of story. But I think what intrigues us as human beings is sometimes sort of the extremes of what we're taken to, be that positively or negatively, and I think we can relate to both ends of the spectrum. And often, when we're taken extremely in one direction, that can be the most dramatic, and memorable part of a story or film. And so maybe that's why I'm drawn to it. I think that's why. But no, definitely everything I write is different in terms of character and everything and story. Yeah. And I get the impression that as you get older as well, and where you are within your life, what you're drawn to writing often changes. So no doubt later when I have children or I'm older, looking back, that what you're drawn to is entirely different. So.
Well, I have a philosophy. It's I believe that. The amount of pain you experience equals the amount of joy you can experience. So, yeah.
So we do have another question. Mel says, Mark, when it comes to, and I think she's meaning distributing. She said disturbing short films. Why is it so difficult?
Well, you know what? There's just so many out there is the main thing, and there's not that many platforms out there to showcase them on, which is why a lot of people who aren't spending too much money on a short will choose to just put it straight online, so it's free and everybody can see it. And then if it's wonderful and it goes viral, or it has an element which is very attractive to be online, then they'll get noticed that way. Yeah, it's difficult because. As well, not that many people stay making short films for a huge amount of time. Often it's a great springboard to more substantial works. Although it's got brilliant merit in its own format. It's it's a very different thing writing a complete story in sort of 10-15 minutes to 90 minutes, and it's a very different beast. But yeah.
Do you see a future where shorts are, because everybody's into fast, instant gratification.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You watch YouTube, they say, keep it 30 minutes or under, and the shorter the better.
Absolutely.
So do you see a future where shorts are going to be more and more wanted?
I think so, and I think I'm slowly seeing that. Every now and then there's sort of new programs launched on different online channels and things, and there's a real push towards web series, through YouTube, and people are making these sort of dramas and sitcoms that can be seen on YouTube, and maybe they do one a month, and there's a huge following out of them, and they can become something bigger. But for short films, I do think there's definitely an audience for that. And similarly, when you try and show a short film in festivals, I find that they lean towards the shorter end of the shorts, purely because when they're scheduling, they can, if they have a half an hour slot, and each is 5 minutes long, then they can get six in that slot. But then if you've got a 20-minute short film, it might be wonderful, but it's difficult to get it in there. So it means the longer your short film is, it has to be maybe particularly unique or interesting or suitable for that festival for them to really want to show it to an audience. So it's quite a tricky space to film.
Well, and now that means I need to show my ignorance again. What is the process of getting into a film festival?
Well, it's as simple as the finished film, and then there's online websites where you pay the fee and you send it off to them, and that can be physically through a DVD, although most things are high definition now, so often you just you transfer it online, you upload it, send them some press materials and some production stills, things like that, behind the scenes pictures maybe, little synopsis, and that money is basically gone until that helps those festivals survive. So you normally would send off to a good amount of festivals. My last one, I think we tried to narrow it down to about 30. And that does cost a lot of money, actually. It comes to very few are free, and even if each one is sort of £20 each, I'm not sure how many dollars that is, but it adds up. It adds up. So, but then you'd get a call, and then if they want to show it, then fantastic, and then you're in.
That's cool.
Come to the film festival. We have some great film festivals here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, in your state, or in general?
We have a Boulder Film Festival.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So Tammy wants to know if this is your first Kickstart campaign.
It is. It is.
Wow.
Which made it all the more daunting and exciting at the same time. And it's probably why I'm sort of notorious for over planning, and maybe that's why I was a bit anxious about it. So I gave myself even more time to plan ahead, and so it is my first time. And I almost think with crowdfunding, maybe it's different with different kind of companies and things, but from my experience, you almost have like a chip to use, and if you've done more than one and you're asking the same people, maybe they're slightly less inclined to, unless you've hugely successful with the last one and it's created this expanding audience, then maybe that new audience will come to you and be like, oh, what are you doing next? But my impression is that, if you're sort of, you're asking people to help you raise money and in exchange for some great rewards and things, but if you're doing that more than once, it can be a bit more difficult. So I'm quite grateful that this is my first campaign, to be honest.
It's just amazing that within hours of the Kickstarter campaign being released, that you were staff picked as the best. Yeah. And I'm sure that helped springboard some of your success that you've had with it. But
yeah, I mean, to be honest, that was fairly. We tried to plan that as best that we could. I mean, obviously, it's just if the campaign is their taste or not. That we've got no control over that. But
right.
What we try to do is reach out to our immediate friends and family who would ideally be putting their pledges in more or less within the first few minutes of opening, because you really want that sort of steep momentum at the very beginning, so that then it looks popular, and that's what they're looking for, is to if they have that rise, and ultimately then if Kickstarter do choose you to be put in one of their featured areas, or that they bump you up to the noted or noteworthy section, then people who just visit Kickstarter who don't know you are more inclined to look at it, and so it does help. It sort of feeds it. They feed into each other, the two things.
So you said this has been going on for 3.5 days. What else have you had to do with the Kickstarter campaign for promotion?
Yeah, well, in the build-up, a lot of online research, literally stalking through the current and past projects that are maybe slightly similar to ours in terms of ambition and the amount of money we wanted to raise, see what they did right, where it didn't quite work, and then from that we can see which sort of websites were publicizing and doing some online press on them. So and then I started to collate a very large list of websites and media companies who support these kind of projects, and then I started a dialogue with them, so that with a few of them on day one of our launch, they'll be mentioning and they're interested. So to have that media interaction as well as your local or personal community on day one is I found to be really useful. And you can be on, and just made loads of email lists. We built a landing page, which is a very simple thing. It's not, a landing page is not quite a website, but it's a way. People go there, they can click on their Facebook, their Twitter, and then the third button, it will take you to the web page, for instance. And that's a very simple thing that gets people just spreading word, which is great. And I use things like MailChimp, which sends out lots of newsletters to people, things like this. The only other tool which has been useful, and it's the only thing that we've sort of paid for, which isn't a lot of money, is a company called Green Inbox, I think, which do multiple Facebook personal messages to people, because you normally have a cap if you just do it yourself, and they obviously have an algorithm that allows you to do it, so that definitely helps as well. There's a lot of things, to be honest, and there's a couple of websites that were very useful to me early on.
That is
Well,
fascinating.
it looks like the homework paid off.
Yeah.
So far, so good. As I say, we've still got a way to push to our ideal amount of £15,000. So we're very keen to push on and make that figure, just to make the film we want to make, really. So.
Awesome.
So we've had a couple more people. Katrina, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. I apologize. Stop by. It's her first time visiting our show. She wanted to say hi. Joyce Dickens also is on, and a couple of others. And we're about out of time. So, Mark, could you let everybody know how to find your Kickstarter campaign, how to find you on Twitter and Google Plus, and
Absolutely, of course. So if you go to Kickstarter website and search for Blue Borsalino, and that's blue, and the second word is spelled BORSALINO. That's how you can find our actual page. Or on Facebook, we are. If you just type for Blue Borsalino, you'll find us. Likewise with Twitter, it's fairly self-explanatory. But yeah. Have a look at the page. There's some great stuff on there. We've got a lovely mood reel. My cinematographer's got his personal reel there as well. An actress that worked on my previous film, who's gone on to big things, Lily James, has done a lovely little video message. And then obviously there's the pitch video and details of the production designs and things. There's a lot of great content. And obviously you can find out about the great rewards on offer as well. Everything from limited edition one-off signed visuals, our original soundtrack, premiere screenings. You can become a producer, read the script, lots of lovely bits and pieces to make you feel involved. Also, to get things to keep for yourself, which is ultimately quite nice.
Sounds wonderful. Catherine, do you have any final words?
I'm just going to give a shout out to Tammy Cook. She's awesome, and she is just a wonderful photographer. So just have to give a shout out to her.
She also has done wonders at spreading the word around about this show and a couple other of our shows. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Tammy's awesome.
She's a great supporter.
And I'm going to ask this because I was talking to Tammy earlier, and I don't want to embarrass you, Mark, but Tammy wanted to ask for all the single women out there. Are you married, and how old are you?
I'm not married, but I am in a lovely long-term relationship, and I am 28 years old.
Your lovely long-term relationship is probably going to break a lot of American female hearts.
I doubt that very much.
Any final words, Mark?
It's been an absolute pleasure, it's exciting times. Hopefully, we'll make our target, and good luck to anyone who's going to try and do a crowdfunding campaign themselves. And you can always get in touch with me through our social media as well if you want to ask any questions beyond this chat, because I found it very useful asking people who've done the same previously. So. Very
nice. So I guess we're going to wrap it up. I'm so glad everybody stopped by. We are today's Visions via A&G Synergy is going to make a donation to the film. That was already predetermined anyway, regardless of how many viewers we had. So I really, really enjoyed having you on, and I wish you the best of success.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you both and doing this. It's been really great. We'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. Great having you.
So, everybody, we will see you next Friday evening at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Till then, bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.